So Miigwech for joining us again for this session with Jonathan Thunder from the Red Lake Nation. And I'm just gonna kind of go over some things, and then I'm gonna turn it over to my co-host, Cayman Good Sky. And so my English name is Ivy Vineo. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the daughter of a Grand Portage Ojibwe tribal member and a Bahamian immigrant. And I live in Duluth, Minnesota, where I work. And a little bit about AICHO, American Indian Community Housing Organization. We're an Indigenous-led, people-first nonprofit organization in Duluth, Minnesota, Onigaminsing. And it was established in 1993. We provide housing, a domestic violence shelter, a vibrant cultural arts programming, Indigenous-centered retail space. You'll hear a little bit about that from Cayman. Indigenous food sovereignty initiatives, Indigenous health programming, and so much more. And all of our work is anchored in our mission to honor the resiliency of Indigenous people by strengthening communities and centering Indigenous values into all aspects of our work. So Miigwech for joining us today for this special Youth Art Entrepreneurs session with Red Lake Nation tribal member and artist Jonathan Thunder. I first met Jonathan almost 20 years ago. It's pretty wild. I was curating a show at the University of Wisconsin Superior, Native American group exhibition with established artists, Native artists, and Native high school students. And it was a really great show, and did it for about 12 years, consecutive years. And early on in like 2006, Gordon Coons, who was the featured artist at the time, he's from the Lakota Reservation in Wisconsin. He suggested that we reach out to this young kid in Minneapolis. He wasn't a kid, a young man in Minneapolis, and that's how we got introduced to Jonathan. And that following year, he participated as an established artist. And then the next year, he was the featured artist of the whole show. So, and we've been connected ever since, and through galleries and all of that happy art stuff. And so we're so happy that you're with us here today, Jonathan, and to share your knowledge that will help prepare youth and young adult artists about the business of visual arts. I'm going to turn it over now to Cayman Good Sky. Cayman.
Hey, Buju, thanks for having me. My name is Cayman Good Sky. I come from Boys Fort, that's the band of Chippewa. I live here in Duluth, Minnesota, and I'm honored to work with Ivy at the American Indian Community Housing Organization. I am the Indigenous First Coordinator of the Indigenous First Gift Shop. So what that means is I work with a lot of lovely artists like Jonathan, Tashia Hart, so many artists to help kind of promote their art and get them out there, get people interested in buying their art. We are really interested in highlighting and supporting Indigenous artists and helping them succeed in the best way that we can. I'm really happy to be here with Jonathan. I don't know, he just inspires me, and I hope that he inspires everyone else to keep doing what they do, which is art. And I'm going to pass it over to Ivy for some more logistics.
All right, Miigwech came in. And so why we are doing this, in addition to you all learning about entrepreneurship with your art and business skills and pricing your art and all of that good stuff, we are having Jonathan as part of our lead up to our youth and young adult art gallery show that's going to be held at AICHO Galleries in Duluth, Minnesota. And so we still have submission open. So if you are local or even in the Midwest, and want to submit to that, it's open for fifth graders to age 24, and it can be all mediums. And Becky's going to put in the chat the submission link. So if you have other questions about that, you can just look on that. It has all the deadlines and all that, but our deadline for submission is next Monday, the 18th. And so if you're interested in that, just go to that link. And then I'm going to go over the Zoom link, the Zoom protocols here. And while I do that, I'd like for all of you to place in the chat where you're zooming in from. And if you can, you'll get some extra points if you put what tribal lands you reside on. So you can do that now while I go over the Zoom rules, Zoom session rules. We're going to keep everyone muted, and we have your videos turned off. If you have questions, you can ask them in the chat, and we'll have time at the end with Jonathan to ask questions. And then Becky Nordstrom is the Zoom tech. So if you have any questions, you can send her a private message and she can help you. We are recording the session like I had noted at the beginning. And so the recording will be sent to all of the registered folks, because there's a lot of folks that aren't on tonight. And finally, Miigwech to the McKnight Foundation for providing funding for this session. And I'm going to turn it back over to Cayman, who's going to introduce Jonathan, and then Jonathan's going to go into the presentation. So, Cayman.
All right. Well, it's with great honor that I introduce Jonathan Thunder. Here's a little bit from his bio on his website, which you should definitely check out. Thunder infuses his personal lens with real-time experiences using a wide range of mediums. He is known for his surreal paintings, digital films, and installations in which he addresses subject matter of personal experience and social commentary. John is an enrolled member of the Red Lake Band of Ojibwe, and makes his home and studio in Duluth, Minnesota. He has attended the Institute of American Indian Arts in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and studied visual effects and motion graphics in Minneapolis, Minnesota, at the Art Institute International. His work has been featured in many states, regional and national exhibitions, as well as in local and international publications. Thunder is the recipient of a 2020-21 Pollock Krasner Foundation Award for his risk-taking in painting. Since his first solo exhibit in 2004, he has won several awards for short films in national and international competitions. His work is the permanent collections of museums and universities. So that's from his bio. I personally know Jonathan because he has helped me get into the art field and has been really encouraging and helping me pursue my own art. And I know he's been a huge role model for a lot of youth, a lot of older people, and has just overall been a well-loved and well-respected community member of Duluth and of many different areas. And so, Jonathan, please take it away. We're excited to hear from you.
Thank you, Cayman. Bonjour, everybody. My name is Jonathan Thunder. Tonight, I am going to share some information that it's sort of the nuts and bolts of being a practicing artist that supports themselves with their art. These are things that I've learned over the course of probably 20 years. Some of them the hard way, and some of them by actually listening to mentors like Gordon Coons, who was mentioned earlier, while kind of pushing through the art world and just observing and learning things as I go. So, thanks to everybody that tuned in. I'm going to go through the presentation at a pretty steady pace. There are some questions that were brought into the registration application, and I'll answer those during my presentation as well. And at the end, we'll leave room for a little bit of Q&A, because this is sort of tip of the iceberg stuff, but I cover just about everything you should need to know, either as a practicing artist or going into the arts, or even just if you're just interested in how does it work. So I'm going to share a screen here. I want to say share sound. Nope, we don't need to share sound. Okay. Is that coming in, Cayman? Can you see that?
Oh
Should be
yeah,
okay. Should say AICHO's Zoom presentation for youth entrepreneurs.
yeah, it's looking pretty good.
Great. All right. So the key word here is entrepreneurs, and the youth art part will be part of this presentation, but I've tried to structure this in a way where it can apply to any age group of people looking to just learn a few things about the arts. But this is for people who are interested in selling work. It can also be useful to people who just want to make art for fun. I'm sure there's things in here that will help you as well. So introduction and overview. Let me see here. I think it was, like Ivy said, about 20 years ago, I moved from Santa Fe, New Mexico back to Minneapolis to help my mom fix up the house I grew up in. I had just been in Santa Fe for about 3 years. I studied art there, and I kind of tried my hand at the gallery scene there, which is very competitive. It's a very competitive market there. People are at the top of their craft, and they put forth 125% effort to make sure that they have a place on the market in that town. When I came back, I made this painting. This painting is a person just beginning their day, because I was brand new. Well, let's just say that when I left Minneapolis, I didn't consider myself an artist, but when I came back, I considered myself a brand new artist to Minneapolis, and I knew that I needed to try to get out there and do some stuff. Prior to that, prior to college, I had entered some high school competitions. So for those of you who are still in grade school, middle school, elementary school, if there's like a yearbook drawing submission call, like put something in there, put a drawing in there, even if you are nervous about it, that is the best way to grow. So enter things into your community, open calls at your school, hang your stuff up, talk about it. I guess I'm doing a little I got a little off course here. I studied painting, creative writing, and sculpture at IIA in Santa Fe, New Mexico. For those that don't know, the Institute of American Indian Arts is an art school, a very prestigious art college that is aimed at tribal members. When I was there, it wasn't just tribal members from North America. There were people who came there from all over the world to study. And I met a lot of artists while I was there, and it was pretty cool. For the second college, after studying painting and just kind of like immersing myself, in like, what does it mean to be a painter? What does it mean to like just carve rocks, stuff like that? I got interested in the technology that's available to artists. So I went to school for graphic design, filmmaking, animation, and visual effects for film, and wound up getting a bachelor's of science. It's a computer science degree, and that has been very helpful for me in my career as an artist, whether I'm doing drawings or paintings or making an animation. I didn't wait till I was done with college to try to get out there and get my name out in Minneapolis, which is full of galleries, or at least it was in, I will say, 2003, 2004 is probably when I really was being aggressive about getting my face seen at galleries and gift shops. And how you did that then, at least how I did that, because I didn't like cell phones, they were brand new. I would show up, I'd introduce myself, I would shake hands. Sometimes I would go to art openings, and in those days I was very nervous and shy to talk to people, but I made myself do it because to me that was the only way that I thought that I would enter into this world. And the more that I did it, the easier it got. So pretty soon I was doing group exhibits in town, and eventually I had my first solo exhibit, I think 2004-ish. I was still in college, so that was a big deal for me. Where I started actually selling work, so you can make work, you can show work. That's one thing. To figure out how to sell work, I tried an art fair that was on Franklin, and I sold some small, very cheap paintings that I made, and I'm talking like 50, $100 or something like that. I would enter into group shows, and powwow art booths were very effective in getting me seen, getting my work seen. I learned how to talk to people. There were people that would come to my booth and ask me questions, and I'll just admit that at first I didn't always know how to talk about what I was showing, or I didn't like really know how to talk about it in a way where the person would go, "Oh wow, like I should buy something like that." But over time, I got better at just kind of like breaking the ice, I guess you could say. Galleries have been few and far in between for me, but are also a good way to show work. And word of mouth is probably one of the best ways that you can build a name for your art business. If there's somebody that vouches for you or they're really excited about your work, chances are they got a buddy that will come through and buy a little bit of your work too. So who am I? My name is Jonathan Thunder. Born in Red Lake, raised in the Twin Cities. 10 years ago, I moved to Duluth, Minnesota, where I kind of like have just settled down. I kind of said, this is where I'm going to stay. But I consider myself a visual artist. So what does that mean? What is a visual artist? When people come up to you and they say, oh, what kind of art do you do? Or like, well, first they'll say, well, what do you do? I'll say, I'm an artist. And they say, oh, what kind of art do you do? You can kind of tell there are two kinds of people. There are people who actually want to know what kind of art you do and might understand. And there are people who don't really care. They just figured it was the next question on the checklist of small talk. But for those of you who want to know what I do, visual artist, and these are all the different areas of a visual artist that you can take interest in if you want to sell art. My base practice, I call it my root practice, is painting. I make work like this. Not always this busy, but this is the way that I like to work. These are drawing. This is an example of a drawing that I did. Also a way that I support myself. There's something called installations where you bring art to a space and turn it into something like this. And then there's murals, and muralists are kind of like the tough street artists of the world, and I got a lot of respect for them. And if you can do murals, there's some money in it too if you're halfway decent at it. It's kind of a tough thing to break into, but if you can do it in a good way, I hear that it's a good living. So how do I go from this person in a room making a bunch of paintings? What do I do with it? Just dreaming about that ramen money. to this, all the ramen you can eat. And that's an artist joke because a lot of artists have to pay dues, and those dues come in the form of eating very inexpensive food. So I'm going to try to help you get to this right here as fast as I can. So art is like a visual language, right? It's a language that you speak. That's the most simple way that you can look at art. Like, it comes out of you. You might not always know how to explain it, but once you see it on the paper in front of you after you have put it out, it's nice if you kind of can identify where some of this stuff comes from. And that's how a lot of my work happens. Like, I'll paint, or I'll draw. I don't exactly know what I'm doing. And when it's done, I have to sit and look at it and try to come up with some way to verbalize it. Because eventually you'll wind up in this situation, and you can't see the beads of sweat on my forehead there, but I had done a somewhat politically charged painting that include commentary on colonial religion. And this group of women wanted me they were very nice, but they wanted me to let them know why I was saying what I was saying. So I don't do a lot of work like this, but I had to tell them what was on my mind, and it was a good conversation. And they liked how I think. So, and they could relate, it turned out. And also it turns out that they want to know more. So that is your audience. If you can nail down some of those things, you found your audience. And some examples of that are like, say if you like comics and you draw in kind of like a comic book style. You go to a comic convention and set up a table and put your drawings there. Those are the people that are going to understand your work. So your imagery speaks their language, right? So what is language? Language can be color. It can be no color. Your art can be quiet. It can be very quiet and soft-spoken, gentle. Or it can be very loud and rock their world. There can be action in your artwork, or it can be very tranquil and peaceful, like a person in a bathtub holding a rose. It's your story. I heard a saying, let your roots build your crown. I think I probably tore that up. But what I'm saying is who you are, that's your truth, and that can be the way that you make your art, and that's going to be the purest form for you. It's going to ring true. You're going to enjoy doing it, and you're going to know what you're talking about when people ask you about it. Pricing your work. Here's where it gets tricky. Because it can be very methodical, and it can be a little trial and error. First thing you want to ask yourself is, where are you in your art practice? Are you a beginner? And another way to look at it is, like, are you intermediate? Or are you just really good at what you do? And I think that what people tell you about your work is going to help you determine how you feel about that. And there's other ways to do that too. You can compare your work to work that is, like in magazines or considered professional. So you have to determine where you are in your practice. How much would you like to make per hour for the creation of your work? When I was in college, I worked 3 jobs, and each one of those jobs paid me $8.25 an hour. And I was still on the deans and presidents lists. $8.25 an hour is somewhere to start. I don't know what people make nowadays for minimum wage, but it's probably not $8.25 an hour. So let's say you spend 3 hours on a painting. You've never sold a painting before. You want to make more than the kid at McDonald's. So you want to pay yourself $22 an hour. you know, and what is that, $66 or something like that. That seems like a reasonable place to put your foot. You know, if you spent 10 hours on that painting, charge 200. You know, if you spent 40 hours on that painting, you do the math. Is your asking price right for your target audience? And I use this image because it's a picture of Nacho Libre that I painted looking at the Taco Bell sign. It's very what's considered low brow, kind of like pop art. A lot of people that might be into this art aren't, you know, they're probably not going to be, they might be, but they probably don't own a mansion, you know, where they're going to display this proudly over their 10-foot fireplace. It's probably going to be somebody who makes an income like myself, which is a little more normal, you know, and they'll probably pay. I think I had this one priced at like 1,200. And I think for that painting, which is probably about 18 by 24, that's a pretty reasonable price. And I priced it that way because it didn't take me long to make it. I just kind of like put it together in a rapid pace and framed it up and put it out there. This painting is hanging up downtown at Legacy Glass, I believe, in downtown Duluth, and they have yet to sell it. So I guess you know, they don't just because you price them right doesn't mean they're going to sell. This is the moral to that story. So you have to keep trying stuff, and you have to build the value of your work. If I wanted to buy a painting of a chickadee sitting on a birch bark branch in front of a beautiful landscape, I could probably go into any gift shop in the country and buy that exact painting. But if I wanted to buy something that's very unique and one of a kind, that comes from a place of culture, a place of storytelling, something that's set apart from some of that gift shop stuff that you might see, like the beautiful painting of the chickadee. That builds the value of your work. And for you folks who are interested in your culture, that's one way to do it. Incorporating things that are familiar to your community around you, that's the way to do it. And you also can ask yourself, what do you want viewers to take from your art? You know, are they going to learn anything when they see it? Are you communicating what you hope to? Like, if you want people to look at your art, you're not going to make a something really offensive, you know, unless that is the tone that you're trying to set. You want something that kind of draws them in. So that's why I use color. A lot of my stuff is pretty intense. It's kind of dramatic. It's amazing that I've come this far, you know, to me. But I've learned that to tell some of the difficult stories that I like to tell, like this piece about climate change, I have to speak a language that people want to listen to. And that language involves color, it involves character, it involves story. And ask yourself, what are the materials that you've used? You know, did you use like a $2 tube of paint from Michael's? Or did you buy some nice stuff that looks really nice on the canvas? It's shiny, it has depth. You know, these are all things that are going to add to how your work is perceived. Which leads me to my next point. Make good work, not good luck. The first painting that I showed you, I think I spent like 40 hours on that painting, and that was not like I just painted it from beginning to end in 40 hours. It was a lot of editing, you know, like going back and fixing stuff, learning from it, stepping away from it and coming back and saying, you know, how am I going to finish this piece in a good way? And it paid off. That piece sold. And it sold for a decent amount of money. I think the person that bought it could see that I had put the effort into it. They saw that I had the training. You know, I worked on drawings before I even started painting. These are all activities. You don't have to put them into every piece, but if you draw and practice and like look at your work critically, if not right away, soon you'll be making good work. And it says here, good art is subjective, but have you been intentional in your creation? And what I mean by that is, in the art world, there are people who just make like a squiggle, you know, and that painting sells for thousands of dollars at you know, the Saatchi art auction or something like that. But I bet you that artist has probably had about a 40-year career where all they have to do is sign stuff now, and you're basically buying the brand as an investment, you know. So before that, they probably drew, they probably studied, they probably asked themselves questions like, am I saying what I want to say? Be confident about your process. The process will get you there, you know, like just keep working. Don't beat yourself up. If you put time and effort into a piece of work, it will be good, or you'll have to throw it away. That's happened to me too. If you're not having luck with your efforts, it's okay to move on to new approaches, techniques, or subjects. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. Albert Einstein. He was no artist, but he was pretty smart. And what I'm saying is, like, if you're like, this is my style, you know, this is what I do, these are the things I want to make, but you're not really getting what you want out of it, try something new, you know, teach yourself something new, go look at a different thing and put some new stuff in your pot, you know, new ingredients, and see where that takes you. It's okay, don't be too proud. uh online presence. Online presence is something I struggle with because I like to be a private person. uh I put enough out on social media to know, so people know what I'm doing and they know who I am. You know, they don't need. So for my social media, I use Instagram, Facebook. I have a personal website. I had an Etsy account. I just recently shut it down because my personal website has become my Etsy account. And there are other places that artists showcase their work, you know, TikTok. I don't even know what the other ones are. But if you don't let people know what you're doing, then no one's going to know about your work. So it's okay. I know a lot of times in this kind of culture that we're in, you know, like people feel weird about promoting themselves. They feel weird about talking about their art. But if you're a business, if you're an art entrepreneur, it's just good advertising, you know, like you just have to do it, and you don't have to be cheesy about it. You don't have to be over the top about it. There are people on YouTube who do 20-minute videos about their last project, and there are artists that make an equally good living just posting like a 5-minute video of them painting something, and they don't even have to finish the painting on YouTube. You know, they just have to show what they're up to, and it draws interest. So let people know what you're doing. Don't be bashful, but be nice. Money. Money is synonymous with art, in my opinion. And it wasn't always that way, because I had to come a long ways. To me, when I was a kid, art kept me out of trouble. It helped me figure out what I wanted to do with my life, what I thought about things. It kept me sane, and it still does in a way. It's very much incorporated into my personal structure, my chemistry. If I don't paint for a while, I start to get a little chunky and clunky. Somewhere along the line, I was able to streamline that practice with my ability to pay my bills. So I think that's what separates a hobbyist from a professional, if somebody wants your time, you know, as an artist, they should have to pay for it, you know, and you're welcome to do pro bono work, pay dues, get exposure at your, I guess, discretion. I know I did it when I was kind of like moving along, and occasionally I'll still, you know, just pop into somewhere just to get my face seen. But you don't want to make a habit out of it, you know, and to take money for art, you're definitely going to want to have a variety of ways to take it these days. PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, Stripe, Square, Cash. Cash is still pretty much king. Cryptocurrency, I've actually taken cryptocurrency for art. Checks, occasionally people still write me a check. And payments, you know, when somebody doesn't have enough money but they really like your work, it's okay to say I take payments. You know, if it's 20 bucks a week, 500 bucks a month, you know, whatever your price point is, go ahead and help them out, and they'll help you. just make just make sure they don't get the artwork until they're caught up on their payments. Which brings me to taxes. Yes, I pay taxes. It took me a while to get to the point where I made enough money from my art to have to pay taxes on it. If you make more than $12,950 in a year and you're under 65, you have to pay the man. In general, if you're under 65 and you make 13K, pay the man. If you're over 65 and you make 14,700 or more, you have to pay the man. So 65 or older, 15K, pay up. There are exemptions in some circumstances, depending on who purchased the art, such as I'm from the Red Lake Nation. One year, the Red Lake Nation hired me to create a mural in the Red Lake Nation, one of their tribal buildings, but it was culturally themed. So that was a tax exempt project. There were some kind of federal laws that went into why that was, but I didn't get a W-9 that year for them for that project. And I didn't ask questions. I just said, that sounds amazing. Thank you. Nonprofits, I don't know. I'm sure there are other cases, but they'll know if somebody's buying art from you and they're tax exempt, they'll know. Paying taxes. I use an app called QuickBooks on my phone. Well, maybe I shouldn't show it to you, but QuickBooks is just one app. And the cool thing about having it on my phone is if I'm out, I can take pictures of receipts. Let me just go down this list here. Keeping track. It tracks payments received because I've linked it to my bank accounts. If you send me a check for 20 bucks and it goes into my bank account, QuickBooks will put it in the equation. It tracks expenses and mileage with GPS tracking on my phone. If I drive 130 miles to Minneapolis for a meeting and then drive home in the same day, it will say, okay, in Minnesota, that's 56 cents a mile. You drove 260 miles today. You know, you can deduct this much from that trip. It takes photos of receipts and stores them. I have boxes of receipts from the last 5 years, but it's becoming less and less because with a QuickBooks app, I can just take a picture of the receipt. I'll keep it for a little while until I feel comfortable tossing it out, but that is stored digitally for me as long as I have my subscription. Categorizes spending. Let's say you use a card to go to Michael's or Blick or Jerry's Artorama, buy a bunch of art supplies, use the same card, go to the grocery store, buy some eggs and milk, and then on the same card, you take your friend out who you want to do an art collaboration with later that year, and you buy them nachos so that you can talk about what that project will be like. QuickBooks will put the art supply store into the tax deductible bin. It will put the grocery store trip into the non-tax deductible bin, and we'll put the nachos into the tax deductible business meal bin. I love this app. Let's see, it estimates taxes. If at the first quarter, you're at 13K, it'll let you know you owe 3,000 or something like that. Tracks profits and losses, and easy to hand to a tax expert at the end of the year. It even will just jump right to TurboTax if you're brave enough to do them yourself, which I have done. Buying art materials, travel expenses, and other write-offs. Save your art store receipts. Save your website expense invoices. Track your miles, keep gas receipts, home office. You can write off a square footage in your house. If you have a room where one corner of it is used, you can write that off. You can write off lodging, meals, inspiration. I was working with a tax guy for the first time in my life 7 or 8 years ago. He leans across the table and goes, "You probably go to a lot of powwows, right?" And I don't really go to powwows. I like powwows, and when I show up, I usually hit the fry bread stand. I'll watch Grand Entry, and then I'm like, that was beautiful. It's time for me to go do other stuff. So I was like, I go to a lot of powwows. What is this? Some kind of, like, was this guy racist? What's going on here? So I was curious though, and I just said, sometimes. And he said, okay, are you inspired when you go there? I said, yeah. He goes, well, that's a write-off. Anywhere you go where you find inspiration, you can write that off. So if you go see a movie and it's about an artist, or you just really like the story and you want to do a painting that's inspired by it, write off the movie ticket. That's not legal advice, but it works for me. Certified public accountants, enrolled agents, and tax attorneys are your friend. And like I said, if you're really brave, you can do TurboTax or something like that. Reinvesting your profits into your art business. Use what you earn to invest in supplies. Look into professional supplies. Professional materials equal better results. That's not the golden rule, but that's my rule. I like good art supplies, and usually when I make a mark, it just looks how I want it to look. Brands that I use are Golden Paints, Liquitex paints. When I was in college, I had a hard time affording that stuff. But as I was able to make money, I would buy a tube of my favorite turquoise, or I'd buy a tube of my favorite cadmium red. Try different brushes. I've been using flat brushes and pointy brushes for years, and just recently I discovered round brushes, and they are amazing. 20 years into my practice, and I'm still learning. Try to get yourself a website if you can. Social media comes and goes. It's subject to the tides of people's opinions, but your website is your space. You own it. It's like buying a house that is your art house. It's your property. And do promotional stuff. This image on the side here is a card that I printed through Vistaprint. And when I'm at events, I'll just hand them out. I'm just like, here's my card. It's the size of a postcard. I think it's like 4x5. People really like that, and it's big enough for them to see what I do. And they're fun to make too. I don't mind making them. Finish what's in front of you. Develop your ideas and explore them. Start something, anything. If you feel like you don't know what to make, just sit down, make a mark, make another mark, start making more marks. And in an hour, you'll have made something, and it will have come from somewhere. I guarantee it. And if you really like where it's going, follow through. When I started this painting, at this stage, I had no idea what I was going to do. I knew what the image was going to be because I had made a drawing, but I didn't know how far I wanted to take it. And I started to draw these little, sort of like hair clumps on the top of his head. And I thought, oh man, if I do this all the way down the front of Bigfoot, this is going to take me a lot of hours to make. But I did. I sat there and I made every single one of those, and I made sure that they looked how I want them to look, all the way down to his knees, as you can see. And to me, the payoff was huge, and that painting is in the home of a private owner. Let's see. Anyway, what I'm saying is follow through, just work on your stuff, give it some time. Look at art. I want you to feed your soul. For those of you who may not look at a lot of art, for those of you who are still in school, your art teachers will probably have access to this kind of stuff in the library. Obviously, Instagram, showing my age again there. Look at it, like get it in your eyeball. See what kind of art you like, and read about those artists. See why they like to do what they like to do. Look at art in person if you can. Stand right in front of a big painting or a sculpture or a public work of art or anything. Stand right in front of it. Listen to podcasts about artists. A lot of these podcast artists will give away secrets like I'm giving away. Talk to other artists. That's one of the best ways to create a community of people who are your colleagues. Learn from those who came before you. Ivy Vigno mentioned almost 20 years ago, Gordon Koons introduced us. And I remember in those days, Gordon Koons and I met. We were part of an exhibit on it's like the 8th floor of the IDS building. We had paintings there. I started to be his buddy, and I realized he had a lot of good stuff to say about what it meant to live as a working artist. And I just liked listening and watching him when we had a show together. Like the way that he presented himself was so professional that the only way I can look at it is mentorship. And it's played such a big part in my life that, what do they say? Like, look at people who have what you have and find out what they're doing, or have what you want and find out what they're doing. Show up at art shows and fairs and say hi. If you go to an art show, say hi, even if it, is really nerve-wracking for you, just say hi, get some of that energy on you. Like if you're at an art show, you're at an art fair, that room is filled with energy and you will be swimming in it. Garbage in, garbage out. Look at work that inspires you to look at work that inspires you to achieve. This is me reading my own writing. Look at work that inspires you to achieve. And what I mean by garbage in, garbage out is be selective about what you put in your system visually, the stuff that you hear, the stuff that you read, because that's going to come out in your artwork. If there's a kind of art that you want to create, you're going to want to put stuff that feels like that in your body. Like if you want to be, like make art that just is really calming, meditate, learn about meditation, go to yoga, ride your bike for 4 hours, through the Munger Trail. Do stuff that calms you down. So, that's kind of the meat and potatoes of my presentation. During the registration, there was a Q&A, or there was a chance to ask questions, and I'm going to blast through some of these questions that were sent in when people signed up for this presentation, and I'll do it in a timely manner so that we can leave room for some new questions too. How can I maintain my art? I just want to let this person know you just have to prioritize. You have to make time. There's no other way to do it. You just have to, like, if you have to move something for a while out of your schedule, that's how you maintain your art. How to deal with having one popular design that's different from the style I really like working in, and I don't really want to be known for just one thing that sells. Even AC/DC gets asked to play their hits, but I would say just keep pushing yourself. Make a new popular design. You keep pushing yourself, and it's going to happen. It's okay to share pictures of my. Is it okay to share pictures of my art online for fun? Of course, it should be fun. What I do is fun. I mean, I am a professional artist of 20 years. If I wasn't having fun, I would quit my job today. I'd tell my boss to go F himself. That's me, by the way. I'm my own boss. And definitely have fun. Have fun. Don't not have fun, because the moment you stop having fun, your audience is going to not have fun. Best tips on finding your own art style. Like I said before, just keep looking at art, find art that you like. What do you like about it? Like, really look, ask why do I like this? Is it the color? Is it what's going on in here? Are there people, not people, machines? Is it architecture? And start to narrow it down. And the more that you practice, the artist's hand is what they call it. It will speak up. Do you think art and music should be for free? Not to the artist or the musician, but it can be for free to people who show up to an event. The artist or the musician who is working that event, in my opinion, should have compensation from somewhere. The venue, or whoever brought them there. There should be some compensation, but it could be enjoyed for free. That's for sure. Is it better to stick to one type of artwork when starting off as a painter, such as acrylic or watercolor? This is a good question. I would say if you want to get good at acrylics, paint in acrylics. If you want to get good at watercolor, make 100 watercolor paintings, and then you'll be really good at that. If you want to do 100 acrylic paintings and 100 watercolor paintings, but you do one and one and one and one and one, it's going to take you 200 paintings to get just as good at either of those. So you just have to pick your path. What has been the most effective avenue of sharing your artwork that has led you to the most successful outcomes? Financial, community engagement, audience building awareness, marketing, etc. And the answer is yes. So all of these. And I'll tell you, you have to financial, you have to put a little money into your business to make it work. Community engagement. Without community, an artist is just a person in a room making art by themselves for themselves. Audience building, like I said, let people know what you're doing. Your audience they'll kind of come out of the crowd. Awareness. I want to say that this means like awareness of your existence. So yes, definitely let people know that you exist. And marketing, yeah, don't be shy. It's a business, so do some stuff to get your name out there. And that could mean just like making a postcard or something. What do you do when you have an artist block? What helps? There are two things that I do when I have an artist block. I make myself work, or I go for a walk, and both work. What are some inspirations I can help my children find? Are there other sessions new youth artists can attend with you through Zoom? Are there any pointers, positives you can share on how to overcome the shyness of submitting our art to the AICHO Brave Art Show? inspirations for your children, just look at art. Definitely try YouTube. You know, there's some really cool. So for children, I don't want to put them in a category, but there's a cool YouTube channel where the gal just paints skateboards or you know, like really cool designs on skateboards. I love that kind of stuff, you know, and I think that's probably something that I could sit down with my son and watch when he gets to a certain point. I don't know if there'll be future Zoom sessions with me, but there are some things on the AICHO website or the AICHO YouTube channel where I have done some drawing lessons. So check those out. And overcoming shyness. I'll tell you, when I went to college, I took a class, speech class, where they make you talk in front of a group and they make you videotape yourself and watch it with a group, and you pick out all the little things that you hate, your voice, everything. And the more that I did that, the more that I got used to talking. So you just have to do it, you know. And my first solo show that I did in the Twin Cities in 2004-ish, I almost couldn't walk into the gallery. It was my show, my paintings in the gallery, and I had such a hard time just going into that room. But once I got in there, uh, everything was fine. So you just have to do it. Was it hard building a platform to share your artwork? What are beneficial ways to do so? I think I might have touched on this. Social media, you know, get your own website and show up. Show up. How to price art when disability affects turnaround time. This is a difficult question for me to ask, but I can tell you that when I first moved to Duluth, I broke my leg in 13 places on the Superior hiking trail. So I was in a wheelchair for the good part of a year, and I still made work. I did make it very fast, but I tried to just be consistent. I don't know if this helps, you know, and I just took on what I could handle. So I think it depends on your personal situation, you know, whatever your mortgage payment is, or your rent, or your car payment, if you have that stuff. You just have to figure it out. You have to make it work. How are you so good at color? I don't know. Just am. Why are your colors so incredible? I don't. They just are. Does triple scoop have a name? Triple scoop works. I like that. So I went to school, studied color theory, done a lot of paintings. Paintings that I didn't like the colors, I changed them. That's why the colors that I have are what they are. I developed a palette that I like. I buy those colors when I go to the art store, and I stick to what I know. And I use vibrant colors because it helps me tell my story, and it gets me excited. When I see colorful work, I get excited. So that's the kind of work I want to make. Color theory can be spotted online. You can take simple courses. If you don't want to go to college, or if you're not old enough to yet, just check it out. YouTube color theory. How to keep motivation through the art process. If you're not having fun, then start having fun. You'll be motivated. How did you get started in your art career? Just took a leap. When I got out of school, I did work for a guy. I was hired to animate things for his company. This was a video house in downtown Minneapolis, and I worked for him for probably 4 years after school, maybe longer. And it was beneficial to me because we were selling art. You know, it was art in motion, but I had to learn how to talk to people. I had to learn how to find out what they were looking for by listening to their ideas. And I had to figure out how to translate what they were saying through my art process. So that was a very good experience for me. I worked for a guy who had, geez, I bet you 40 years in the business. And if I screwed up, he let me know. You know, he'd say, John, this person's spending a lot of money here. So I want you to go back in there and listen to him, you know, and I think it'll be all right. And when I didn't want to listen to somebody, I still went in there and I listened, and the project turned out great and everybody ate dinner. Let's see, how can I get people to take me serious with my art as a career? You just have to keep making art and you have to be serious about it. You know, like if you tell people that your art sucks, they'll believe you. If you are serious when you submit something or you show a piece of work and you believe in it, people will believe in it. What is the first piece of art that you sold and how did you get started? First piece of art I ever sold was a design for a motorcycle club patch in St. Paul of probably about 30 men and women who rode crotch rockets. Last time I heard, they are the largest motorcycle club in the Twin Cities, and you can occasionally see that patch on a motorcycle cruising by at high speeds. And I probably charged $200 for that thing because I was still a college student. Do you have any advice for sustainably sourcing materials? Or if you have any experience incorporating traditional materials into your work, I'd be interested to hear about that. I'm also struggling to identify what medium I want to work in. Now that I think about it, I've really not really connected with other artists. So advice on how to branch out early on would be also appreciated. How to connect with other creatives and getting your art out there. Also tips for staying disciplined. How do you add regiment to the creative process in order to be more, I hate to say it, productive. So going down the line, I'm not really sure how to source sustainable materials. A lot of stuff that I work with, I just buy in a store. I don't really have experience incorporating traditional materials into my work other than I painted a couple drums, hand drums, which I bought and later found out that they were made by a guy in the Twin Cities who just makes hand drums all day. So they're not really like traditional hand drums. They're like gift shop hand drums. You have to just experiment. You'll find what medium you want. Whatever one you're most excited about, that's what you'll go with. To connect with other artists, show up, reach out to people online, talk to people who like what you like. And as far as regiment goes, they say it takes 90 days to create a behavior that will stick. You just have to do it, you know, and if you do it for 90 days every day, or even if you do it for a good portion of those 90 days, chances are your body and mind and spirit will say, it's time to get into the studio and make stuff. You won't even have to force yourself to do it. What are the biggest challenges for an artist that's coming up? Probably just sticking with it. It hasn't been like nothing has been handed to me, you know, in my art career. I've worked very hard to make a name for my business and develop the styles and skill sets that I have. So you just have to work really hard. What types of prints sell best? Cheap ones. How old was he when he started a career with his art? I would say probably about 25 is when I really started to pick up some steam. And that was 21 years ago. How to get taken seriously as a young artist. Like I said, just keep doing it. You know, if you have an image that cannot be ignored, you will not be ignored. So I want to leave you with some resources. to find community and places to show your work and places to know more about what it looks like to be an artist for you, because this is your path, your community, wherever you're at in this country. These are things that you can try. Your local community center. My first show was at the my first solo show was at the Minneapolis American Indian Center at the Two Rivers Gallery. They took pity on me. Art fairs, regional art councils. In Minnesota, we have multiple regional art councils, and they all support their local artists. Art consultants, like Springboard for the Arts, is somebody that talks to artists. They give you advice. They can help you with website stuff, and it's all for a fee. This is an economy. Open calls to exhibits, submit stuff. Teen centers, go and do group shows. Cons or conferences like Comic-Con, Indigenous Comic-Con, or IndigiCon, IndigiPopX, South by Southwest Flatstock, etc. You know, these are places where you can sign up for a fee. You go there with a table of stuff and you sell work. YouTube artist channels. Check them out. You know, get on YouTube and say painting murals, or you know, like good art colleges. Masterclass.com is a little advanced. And Skillshare is probably just about for any level of artists coming into the field. And for you youth out there, and for anybody, you know, I'll say that in college, I learned so much about the process of making professional work through my peers, because we would tell each other if our work sucked or if it was good. And if it was good, why was it good? If it sucked, why did it suck? Structure. If you can show up and do this for 4 years, 5 years, however you are in, however long you're in college, go to those classes, get those grades, get that degree in your hand. Chances are that's how you'll treat your career as an artist. Training. I remember showing up and drawing for 4 hours in the 8 a.m. I didn't want to be up at 8 a.m., but I had to get to class, and we would draw nude models at 8 a.m. for 4 hours every day. Mr. Hand. He was a cool guy, but he let me know when my drawings weren't adding up. Critical thinking. You'll learn how to put your words in order and think. You'll learn how to think about what's happening around you. Speech, like I said, learn how to talk in front of a group, usually coherently. And time to focus. You will be given time where you will be in your practice, refining it. And when you're done with school, you will emerge as a trained artist. So I know art school isn't for everybody. Not everybody can afford it. Some people it's just not in the cards, you know. But like I said, YouTube, Masterclass, Skillshare, these are other resources that you can train yourself to be what they call an out of the garage artists. You know, it's a lot of people make a living that way. I was talking to my wife earlier, Tashia. She sells her earrings. They, like, as soon as she posts them, they're gone. And what she would do is she started making them. She developed her own style. And she would go to offices around the tribe. She would go out to gift shops in Bemidji, which was the next town from the res she lived on. Pretty soon she's like driving to little wineries and stuff like that and saying, hey, do you want to buy these? And, you know, it just turned into a business. So you can do it just by getting out there and presenting your work. So I'm going to go ahead and shut down this. And if we have any time, I went a little bit over, we probably have room for a couple of questions. Let's see, there we go. Stop share. Boom, I'm back.
Thank you so much, Miigwech. That was a lot. You shared a lot, and I love that you went over the questions that were submitted in the registration. So I don't even know if there are any other questions from the attendees on here, but if you do, please put them in the chat. If there's something that wasn't covered, or if you want to kind of get some more clarification on something Jonathan presented on, you can do that now. Jonathan, can you maybe share a little bit while people are thinking of their questions about your film work?
Yeah. So when I went to film school, like I said, I studied visual effects and animation. That taught me a lot of stuff like graphic design, how to create characters, and we wrote screenplays. You know, we had to develop stories to create our imagery. And now, at least once a year, I get approached by somebody making a film and they want to hire me to design characters or scenes or anything that will either be animated by myself or I will hand to animators. Last year, I had the opportunity to work with Disney animators for, you wouldn't believe it, there's a series called Predator where this alien comes to Earth and hunts people for their skulls and spines. And Disney owns it. So a lot different from the Disney when I was a kid. A little less racist, a little more violent. But yeah, I got a check from Disney to do some drawings, and they handed them to Disney animators, and they were animated for a Predator movie called Prey, where Predator comes to Earth and fights the Comanche in 1600s or something like that. You know, so that was a cool experience. But some Disney pays okay, you know, but it was just a really fun experience.
All right, thank you. That's pretty exciting. We do have a couple questions here. What was the most fun art project you've done and why?
The most fun, well, uh so this last summer I did a mural on a 90-foot wide wall that was about 20 feet tall. And I have a very bad fear of heights, but I had to rent equipment that would bring me like really one of those boom lifts that bring you way up in the air to paint. So I was able to conquer my fear of heights to get up there and paint. And I was super nervous at first, but pretty soon I was just having so much fun out there in the elements, painting and like just taking on this humongous wall that I was just like full of adrenaline every day when I was working on that wall. And it's funny because I would be full of adrenaline, and then all of a sudden, like the newspaper would show up, or like, you know, 3 news stations showed up in the same day one day to interview me. And that was at the beginning. And then they showed up again later, at 10 days later at the end. And if I watch those interviews, I'm just like, oh my God, I was so full of adrenaline. Just looked like a lunatic. But it was because I was having so much fun, you know. So I kind of allowed myself to look like that and just sort of be myself. And that was wild, you know. Muralists, that's full body expression. You're using your entire body from top of your head to your tip of your toenail.
Thank you for that, Jonathan. We have Gigi as a 12-year-old. What might be the next step in terms of an art career? Where should I sell works and how should I price them? So she might have came on a little later.
Yeah, I would say your community events would be good. You know, you can go there with your 12-year-old and help them with cash and stuff like that. You know, they might already have a Venmo account. I don't you know, 12-year-olds these days. But that's a good place to start. You know, it's a safe place to start. the internet is still a very scary place when it comes to adult minor interactions. So I would say community events. I am the 12-year-old. I am a 12-year-old, but at heart. But yeah, just you know, go to your community events. Are you in Minnesota?
Gigi, are you in Minnesota?
Because if you are, you should go to AICHO. Go to their community events. If they're so supportive of our youth. I mean, this Zoom panel is an example of that. And I always say the new guy is the most important guy in the room, and that's you. So we're gonna take, well, us grown-ups like to try to help out when we can, you know.
Yes,
I
and
use the term grown-up use loosely in my situation.
yeah, so I just want to chime in again about the Brave Art exhibition that's going to happen in January and February. It is youth from 5th grade to age 24, so young adults can submit your visual art and written work to this exhibition, group exhibition. And last January, we extended it to 2 months for this next year, but this past year, it was 3 weeks. And we had 18 youth that were part of the show that submitted, and about 14 had their work for sale. And guess what? All of it sold. And some were as high as $400 for a painting, a small painting. And some were like $45. So just wanted to kind of let you know about that again. And that's a way for AICHO to support emerging youth artists through that exhibition and through things like this, like Jonathan was saying. So Grace wants to know, what was your favorite film that you ever did as a film artist?
Man. Well, I guess I would just have to say the last one I did, which was called Mom Away. It's a little spooky, but it's a little bit of a spooky tale about a young man who overcomes his fears. And I wrote the whole thing. I wrote the screenplay, but then I decided I wanted it to be narrated in Ojibwe, which I don't really speak that well. So using the Ojibwe People's Dictionary online, I translated everything to Ojibwe. I even went into the syntax to try to make sure that I was writing the sentences properly, which had to kind of restructure what was being said, but it ended up being more poetic. So then I taught myself how to say each line. After I ran the screenplay past Anton Troyer, who said, not bad. So I said, cool. Taught myself how to say the lines. And then I taught myself how to say the lines with inflection. And then I taught myself how to say the lines in the voice that I wanted to use, which was kind of down here a little bit. And then I recorded everything and animated over it. And it's more of a poem film in Ojibwe, I would say. And it sort of sits in the genre that I like. I like filmmakers who are more indie, you know, like they're stylized. Their stuff is it's got a little bit of dark humor in it, you know. It's a little sarcastic. So that's the way I like to go.
Awesome. I'm so happy to hear about the support for the youth. This is something I would love to see in our First Nations community in Canada. And then, oh wow, very interesting. My dad teaches Ojibwe. That's cool.
Cool.
Yeah. Where can people see your films, Jonathan?
If you go to YouTube, I have a bunch of them on my channel. It's called Jonathan Thunder Movies.
Okay. Okay.
Jonathan, I have a question. Just a quick question. What are you working on now? Is there anything you can share with the youth that you're really excited about?
Man, well, I always have a lot of things going on. And that's good for business. Since this is an entrepreneur Zoom, that's how I'll phrase it. I am looking at 2 exhibits. One at the Catherine E. Nash Gallery at the University of Minnesota, one at the Museum of American Art in St. Paul. I'm working on a book, the pictures for a book. I didn't write it. I just draw the pictures, but it's good money. I'm working on a film where I am the animation designer. And I'm also working on trying to develop a little bit of a new approach to my work. When I created my last exhibit, in the end, which is still up, I had a very small amount of time left to work, and I started working really fast. And at the same time, I was looking at all these palettes. And I started to kind of like, I was looking at the palettes and I was like, what if I do that on canvas, you know? And like I was painting, getting really blendy, big globs of paint. And those paintings went to the exhibit and very popular. One of them sold. So I'm meditating on that. You know, I'm trying to figure out like, how can I incorporate that as a consistent in my work moving forward to have it be what's called more painterly, I suppose. You have the book Bow Wow Pow. Cool. Well, this doesn't go any further than this room, but the book that I'm illustrating now is the sequel to Bow Wow Pow. And it's been 6 years since Bow Wow Pow has been released. But with projects that big, because Bow Wow Pow was huge, schedules have to align, funding has to align. My schedule is very dense, so it's taken probably at least 5 years for me to be able to block out a chunk. And it will probably take me about a year to complete the task. But when I do, you know, we'll have another, hopefully another really cool book.
That's great. That a couple of the students said that they must go to Denfeld because they said that you you have a mural in their school.
Oh yeah, the Ozagi mural that was curated by Edie Howes and the Indian Ed program. I did the research for that image and a sketch, and the mural was actually painted by the community onto the drawing that I sort of like put in as a placeholder. They dressed him. They painted his moccasins. They stuff I wouldn't know how to do, but like somebody who designs moccasins, like they should, you know, have these little flowers on them, and it was really great.
Oh, that is so great. And that was
Jonathan, we have some Mickey Mouses on the wall. Bow Pow on the shelf. Excited for the sequel. Well, thank you for buying a Mickey Mouse. Those were fun projects. I was actually looking at that pictures of that series, wondering if I should do some this year. I didn't have a chance to, but I'm glad you have one or a couple. Sounds like maybe.
all right. Well, we're getting close to the end here, so I think we'll say our miigweches again to everyone that came here and learned from Jonathan. And thank you, Miigwech Jonathan, Apachiko Miigwech, for all the lessons you gave us today. And you just covered so much, and I learned a ton of things, and I'm sure everybody else did too. And so attendees, I will be sending out an email later tonight or tomorrow morning with the YouTube link to this session. So for some of you that came in late, or there's quite a few that weren't able to make the session tonight, so people will have that access to that video. And so keep creating, like Jonathan said, follow through, talk to artists, talk to your art teachers, go to community centers, come to AICHO, come to the Indigenous First Gift Shop. We're located in Duluth, Minnesota. And so, Miigwech, is there anything that you want to add, Cayman, before we let go?
No, I just want to say thank you, Jonathan, for all the knowledge and for inspiring youth to keep doing what they're doing and keep creating.
Thanks, Cayman. Thanks, Ivy.
Yeah, thank
Appreciate
you. And big thanks to Becky for putting all those links in the chat. So hopefully all the attendees kind of kept track of that. I'll try to put some of those in the email that I send out as well, so that you can have that as a resource list in your email. So Miigwech to Becky, Jonathan, Cayman, all the attendees, and we'll and follow us on Facebook too. The American Indian Community Housing Organization has a page, and so does AICHO Galleries. And so follow us, and we have events all the time. And so you'll follow us and you'll be in the know. All right. So I'm going to let you all go. Have a great evening. Be safe. Be well. And say hi to the family, Jonathan. And Cayman. So, and happy birthday, Cayman. It's Cayman's birthday, everybody. I forgot to mention that.
Woo!
Woo, woo,
Miigwech,
woo.
Ivy, Miigwech, Jonathan, Miigwech, Becky. This has been great.
All right, we'll let you go. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you.